now let's just touch a little bit about chapter 2. Chapter 2 is all about the costs. Okay, so because we said in the engineering economy, we want to always compare the cost and the benefit of different solutions. So cost is something very important. We need to know the structure of the cost. So there are different types of costs. Okay, cost itself is the amount of resource consumed to gain a specific objective. Okay, something you spend. It can be money, it can be time, it can be other environmental resource, raw materials, okay, goods, services, right? So cost is measured sometimes in monetary units attached to the resources, right? And it consumed by those activities necessary to attain a specific objective. So you want to use the money to do something. That's the cost. And we have two terms called fixed costs and variable costs. Okay, so fixed costs, it means it's constant. The cost doesn't change no matter how many product you produce, no matter what level activities you conduct. Okay, so the fixed costs stay the same. It's constant, or we say unchanging, regardless of the level of output of activity. And variable costs is on the other side. Variable costs will change, and it change along with the level of output or activity. So if you produce more, you cost more variable costs. Okay, you spend more on the variable costs, like the material you use to produce your product. If you're a cell phone producer, the more cell phone you make, the more material like plastic, glass, chips, right? Those things will be increased, and the cost for those material will be variable costs. So let's take a look at this example. This is the bread shop just on Hardy Street. It's called Bread Smith's, and that's my favorite bread shop in town. So just think about the cost for running a business like this. Okay, so here is the inside of this bread shop. So you can see that they have furnitures, they have banners, they have a machine for the drinks, they have decorations, and of course they have products, the bread, and then they have people in the kitchen. They also need to have a people in the cashier, right? They have the lights. They want to make the space bright, and they have utilities. So that's something you can see. And now let's just go over the possible costs needed to run a bakery business like this. And then I want you to pay attention to tell me, like, is that cost a fixed cost or a variable cost? I already have the answers listed here, but I still want you to think through. Okay, so pretend that there is no answers here. Let's take a look at these cost items. The first column. Okay, so first, utility cost, like the bill you pay every month for the electricity, for the water, okay, for the garbage. Let's say that utility cost is $500 per month. So be careful, these are the costs per month, okay? Okay, so $500 per month utility bills. Do you think that's gonna change based on how many breads you make, you produce? Well, no, because every month you have to pay the utility. Okay, so that's gonna be the fixed cost. And the second item is you're gonna hire two long-term workers. One is working in the kitchen, the other is working in the cashier. Okay, so the total payment for these two long-term workers is 6,000. Okay, they are long-term. You have to hire them maybe for a year. Depends on what kind of contract you're signing, but they are long-term. Okay, they're not like like a part-time worker. Okay, so no matter how many breads you sell or how many breads you make, you still need these two persons to run the shop. So it doesn't change along with your productivity, right? So they are the fixed cost. The third is, well, you might want to hire a part-time worker. Okay, so whenever your business is busy, you can temporarily hire somebody to maybe do the delivery, okay? Maybe to help with the cashier, maybe to help with the kitchen. It can be a free person, okay? But that person is part-time, so it means it depends on the productivity, how busy your business is. So it could change. Sometimes you have this 500, sometimes you don't have it, okay? So that is gonna be the variable cost. And then equipment cost. Like here, the equipment cost is like the machine to make the bread. And the cost is 20,000. Well, no matter how many breads you make every day, you still need to buy that same machine. Okay, so that cost is not gonna change. So this is the fixed cost. And then the next item is the furniture. Okay, you see that tables and the shelves and the countertop, okay, those are the furniture for that shop. And those furniture is gonna be there, and you still need to pay that 10,000 for that furniture. You cannot say like, okay, I don't sell a bread today, or I don't make a bread today, so I don't need that table. You couldn't do that. You just need to pay for the table at the beginning. So that's not gonna change. So it's fixed cost. And then the advertising cost, the 500 advertising cost, that could be the banner out of the shop, that could be a brochure, that could be the envelope you just mailed to the residents to let them know that you are there. So those are the spendings that you have to spend, no matter your business is good or not, no matter how many breads you make every day. So this is also fixed cost. And then the materials like the flour, okay, the sugar, the milk, the yeast, those stuff you are going to need for making bread. Well, those things are gonna change because the more bread you make, the more flour, the more sugar you need. So the cost for the materials are definitely going to change based on the productivity. So this is variable cost. And then the rent, how much you pay for having this place. Well, the rent is something fixed because even though you don't sell a bread, even though you don't make a bread for a day, you still need to be there. You still need to open that shop. You have to pay for that location. So this is fixed cost. And insurance. To run that shop, you have business insurance. Well, that insurance doesn't change along with how many breads you make. So this is also fixed cost. And then the accountant, the service for the accountant, like every year you need to have an accountant to account your business. Well, that is also fixed. Okay, it doesn't change no matter like how many bread you make. So just try to think about fixed cost and variable cost in this way. and then try to practice it. So in the future, we might have a similar problem for you in the homework or in the exam or in the test. Okay, and for that I will give you some cost items, and then I want you to answer if that cost is fixed or variable. So please think through all these items and then see if you have the same answer as what I have here. Okay. So this is a chart for the fixed cost and variable cost. So it's a generic chart. It doesn't based on any real numbers, but it just show you, okay, if you have the horizontal axis as units, like how many products you make, and then you have the vertical axis as price. Okay, so the fixed cost is something doesn't change no matter how many units you make. So if you make 0 products, the fixed cost is still there. Maybe it's 1K. And then if you make 2 products, it's still 1K, right? Because it's a flat line. And then if you make 4 products, it's still 1K, right? So that means this fixed cost doesn't change along with number of units. But the variable cost, another line, it's a diagonal line, right? So it means the more you make, the more products you make, the more you spend. So if you make 0, you spend 0 for variable cost. If you make 2, you spend a little bit more. Well, that might be 400. Okay, and then if you make 4 products, you're gonna pay more for the variable cost, like the material. So that could be higher than 400. It could be maybe 800. Okay, so but it means that your variable cost is changing along with how many units you make. And then the total cost is just the total number of variable cost plus fixed cost. Okay, so for this, if you make 2 products, you're gonna have, so this number will be the fixed cost, which is 1K, plus the variable cost, which is 400. So that total cost is gonna be 1,400. Okay, that's all about this chart. Okay, now it's another pair of different types of costs: marginal cost and average cost. So marginal cost is the variable cost for producing 1 more unit. It's a variable cost, so it changes. Okay, and that's the cost for producing 1 more unit. So every time you produce 1 more unit, that additional cost is called marginal cost. It's always on the margin of your production plan. And average cost is, average means total divided by how many numbers, right? So the total cost divided by the number of units produced, that's gonna be your average cost. Let's take a look at this example. So in the table, you have number of units produced. Well, in your company, you produce maybe 1 item, 2 items, 3 items, 4 items, blah, 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 blah. Well, you just, record number of units you produced. And at the same time, you also record the total cost for producing those products. So based on the record, you know that for producing one product, you need to spend $10. For producing 2 items, you need to spend $19. To produce 3 items, you need to spend $27. So those just the number occur on your bill. And then you want to calculate what is the average cost, what is the marginal cost. Okay, so average cost is the total cost divided by the number of units produced. So that's gonna be column B divided by column A, right? This is column B and this is column A. Okay, so the average total cost is, for if you produce one item, the cost is the total cost, which is 10, divided by 1, right? So this 10 comes from here, this 1 comes from here. Same thing, if you want to know the total cost, the average cost for producing 2 items, you're going to use the total cost of 19 divided by 2. Okay, so this 19 comes from this, and this 2 comes from this. Same thing, if you want to see the average cost for producing 3 things, that number will be 27 divided by 3, because 27 is the total cost and the number 3 is the number of units produced. Okay, so you just use the same method for all the different number of units, and you're gonna get the right numbers in this column, in this average cost column. Try it, okay? Try it to calculate how do you get this number for producing 4 items. And also you want to calculate the marginal cost. So marginal cost is just the additional cost to produce that one more unit. Okay, so if you produce 0, the cost is 0. But if you produce 1 item, let me change to another color. Okay, if you produce 1 item, your cost is 10. So your marginal cost is the 10 minus 0. 10 is the additional cost if you produce 1 unit, and 0 is the cost, total cost, if you produce 0. Okay, let's take a look at the second row. If you already produced 1 item and you want to produce another additional one, which is the second item, what is the marginal cost? That's gonna be the total cost of producing the 2 items, which is 19, minus the total cost to produce the first item, which is 10. Okay, so the 19 is from this, and the 10 is from this. Okay, same thing. What's the marginal cost to produce the third unit? So it's gonna be the total cost to produce all the 3 items, which is 27, minus the total cost to produce the first 2 items, which is 19. So that's how you get 8. Okay, so think through this. See if you can understand what is the marginal cost versus the average cost. And this is also very important. We are going to use this in either the homework or the test or the exam. Okay. All right. The next concept of cost is called sunk costs. This is a very interesting concept. Sunk costs is the money you spend as a result of a past decision. So that's something you cannot change for making the current decision. Well, what's the cost about? It's like purchase price paid for a car or a laptop 2 years ago. So the current decision, maybe you want to buy a new computer right now, and you don't want to think about the price you paid for the old computer, because that's not gonna change, okay? And then also another example is the construction cost of a manufacturing facility last year. If you already built that facility, you already spent some money, and that money is not gonna come back, no matter what you do with the new decision. Okay, so those are the sunk costs. Well, another very common situation is, for example, like this, in the cinema, you bought a ticket and then you sit down, you just watched a little bit of the movie, but you don't like it. So you have a decision to make. Do you leave the cinema or do you stay to watch the movie? Okay, and then somebody will think, okay, I already paid the ticket, I couldn't waste the money, so I just, it's better to just stay and, watch the movie to the end. If you are thinking the problem in this way, you are thinking about the sunk costs, and it's inefficient and it's wrong to think about the sunk costs. Well, it's economically wrong, but based on your personality and your lifestyle, nobody can judge you, right? But economically, it is wrong. It is not the economic way to think about the question. Okay, and also, we always say don't cling to a mistake just because you spent a lot of time making it. This is more clear, right? So whenever you make a decision, don't think about the payments or the thing you have already did before, because those things are not gonna change. And this is about the sunk cost. Very interesting. Okay, another concept is called opportunity costs. We talk about opportunity cost a lot. It's a very common concept. So opportunity cost is a benefit that is foregone by engaging a resource in a chosen activity instead of engaging that same resource in a foregone activity. Okay, so you have two options. You choose one, but you have to think about the thing you lose for not choosing the second option. So, for example, travel to in New York City for a summer vacation may cost you $5,000. But at the same time, you lose the opportunity to earn $3,000 as an intern in Hattiesburg. So if you go to the travel, you will pay $5,000 for that travel. But that's not the only cost. You have to think, if you stay in Hattiesburg, if you find an internship, that internship will pay you $3,000. And because you go to the travel, you don't take that internship. So that $3,000 payment for that internship is something you lose as well. So your total cost is gonna be $5,000 plus that $3,000, $8,000. That's your cost for choosing to travel instead of taking the internship. Okay? There are other types of costs. Some costs called recurring costs. So that's the cost anticipated and occur at regular intervals, like monthly rent pay, monthly bills for utility. Those are something, you have to do every several time period. And another item is called non-recurring costs. So non-recurring cost is just something happen one time, like the money you spend for the equipment. You just buy the equipment at the beginning, and then it's done. You don't have to, unless you lease it, okay? You don't have to, pay it every month. And so it's very easy to distinguish these two concepts. And the direct cost and indirect costs. So direct cost is something can be reasonably measured. So you can quantify that, okay? You can allocate those resources to a specific output of work activity, like the material cost. You can clearly say for that material, for that one product, how much material cost is spent. Okay, that's easy to quantify, and that's easy to allocate. But there are something else like the administrative cost. Like for the people who managing this whole thing, it's hard to allocate the cost for their work. Okay, so if you pay somebody like $1,000 to managing the production line, it's hard to say, okay, that $1,000, maybe 10% of it is allocated to produce this product, and 20% of his salary is allocated to this product. It's hard to say that because everything is combined or integrated together. He just managed the whole line. Okay, so those are the costs that are hard to allocate to a specific output. So for that cost, we call it indirect cost. Okay. And the very last thing we're going to talk about is the life cycle cost, the chart for a typical project. Well, two lines you need to pay attention to. One line is this. Okay, that's called a cumulative life cycle cost. So this is the cost you actually pay at every stage of your construction project, let's say that. So at the beginning, the first thing you're going to do for your construction project could be the needs assessment. What type of construction, what type of structure you're going to have, definition of requirements, right? It's just a preliminary design work on that, or conceptual work on that project. And to do that, usually you just pay a little bit percent of your total cost of the project. You might hire somebody to, have the conceptual design, but that cost is very little. So this is just, you can see that the cost for this is very, very little. Maybe just 2% of the total cost. And then you're going to have conceptual design and then advanced development, prototype testing. So those are some, you need to, pay somebody to do that, and that may need some cost, additional cost. And then those costs are gonna be a little bit higher, but still it's just maybe 5% of all the costs, right? And then you move on to the third stage. That's gonna be detailed design. Okay, now you have to be serious. You hire somebody to design the real structure, and everything should be specified. And also you need to have a plan for the facility, the resource acquisition, that kind of stuff. So you are serious right now, okay? And at this moment, you might need to pay more to hire somebody to work on that. So maybe that's 15% of your total cost. And then the next stage is you want to do the production or construction. Okay, things get started. Okay, you have equipment on the site, you have the site ready, you have other workers on the site. That will cost you a lot. Okay, wow, that's a big chunk of cost. Could be 60%. Okay, and then after that you need to hire somebody to manage things, to operate this, okay, to maintain and to support the facility. And then you might have the whole structure disposal, okay, disposed and retired. So that's the end of the life cycle, okay? So this line tells you at what time how much you spend. But another line, very important, is this: potential for life cycle cost savings. So that's to tell you how much you can save if you make a right decision at each stage. So at the beginning, like in the very beginning of the design, that's when if you can make the right decision, or if you can switch from a wrong decision to a better one, you have this much opportunity to save. You can save this much, okay? You can save maybe 80% because you make a right decision at the beginning. But whenever the stage goes on, that potential will decrease, okay? So the possibility for you to save is less, and how much money you can save is also less. So in this stage, you might just, okay, if you have the conceptual design and you think through it and you say, wow, I don't think this is a right plan. I think we want to start over and design another structure. Well, you still have time to change that, and you still can save some money, but that much you saved, maybe it's not gonna be 80% anymore. It could be just 50%, but still you save a bunch. But if you already have somebody design the details, okay, seriously working on this project, and at that time if you want to say stop, I want to make a new structure, this is a wrong decision. Well, at that time if you do this, well, you still can save some money because you are still doing a better decision, but how much you can save is much less, okay? It could be just 20%, okay? And then if you find out a better decision in the construction stage or in the operation stage, wow, that's really a bad time to make the right decision, because although it can save you some money, how much you save is really little, okay? Maybe just 10%, 5% of the total cost, and you have already spent 95% of the cost. So what's the takeaway? Okay, the takeaway of this chart is to tell you it is super important to make the right decision at the beginning of a project. That's the takeaway. Very simple, but it's based on the real data, okay? This chart is based on some real data from a project, but it's real, and the lines are real. So you have to understand why making a wise decision is important, and why it's critical to just make the wise decision as early as possible, because that's when you can save a lot of money from doing a wrong thing to doing a right thing, okay? All right, so this is all about today's class, okay? So we have covered chapter 1, and we have touched a little bit about chapter 2. Very interesting concepts about the cost, and I want you to deeply understand the difference between fixed cost and the variable cost. Also, I want you to understand the difference between the marginal cost and average cost. How do you calculate? Okay, so that's the two major things you need to work on. All right, so see you next week.